Welcome into the Flight Plan Podcast. This is a Badlands crossover event. Tim McMaster along with Zach Rosenblatt and Will Parkinson joining the show. A very special stay or go episode of Flight Plan. We're going to look at the current Jets roster and then look ahead to 2025. We'll also check in on our picks competition and discuss Aaron Rodgers' media session from Wednesday, which was he said some things as he's been known to do. Before we start, you can probably tell I barely have a voice. Zach's going to be sniffling and blowing his nose throughout the episode. So, Will, I hope that you are coming in at least like 90% because you may have to carry this thing.
My voice just sounds like I'm constantly like at a 2 out of 10, regardless of no matter what I do. So, hey, listen, we're ready to roll. We're not going to take any of these out of our transcripts. We're not going to cut anything out of what we say here. So we'll go from there.
All right. Absolutely. So before we get to stay or go, let's talk about Aaron Rodgers on Wednesday. And, he talks on Tuesday and McAfee and they didn't get into any real juicy stuff, I didn't think. But Wednesday, he was open talking about coming back next year, and he hopes to. And some people apparently really want him to, although he doesn't know about the people that matter. All in all, Zach, you were there. Just what were your big takeaways from another memorable session for Aaron Rodgers?
It was one of those press conferences where, in the moment, you're like, everybody's kind of like looking at you like, "Did you just say that?" Like that happened a few times. I mean, I didn't walk out of that press conference thinking he actually seriously wants to be back next year with the way the Jets are either currently constructed or the way they're going to be constructed. He did take a shot at Woody. Like that was pretty, like it was pretty blatant. I know, look, like the question was asked at first about like stability in ownership and like owners like offering support, public support for like coaches and GMs. And when he was asked the question and he was asked, like, do you feel that way about the Jets? He said, is that a rhetorical question? Was his immediate response. Which right there would have been enough. But on the follow-up and, he was actually like, I don't really read online, which is a lie. But have they done that here? And we all were like, I mean, they fired the coach and GM. And he's like, well, there's your answer. I think it is fair to point out that what he did give an endorsement to the Jets coach and GM at late last season, but like how great of an endorsement was it when the coach was fired after 5 weeks? Like, so if he had that, short of a leash, I don't know. I think that was kind of Rodgers' point. I know, I don't think the Jets were particularly happy that Aaron said that, but I think his point was more, I don't know, like his point was about like patience and not letting the outside noise get in, which is a very fair assessment of the New York Jets, while also being fair to point out Joe Douglas had, 6 years. Robert Saleh was in his 4th year. Like those are all true, but ultimately like Aaron's, I think more interesting to me, because that was like wild, but I think the interesting stuff was how he's like pulling back even more from his comments about, the Jets. I only want to play for the Jets, blah, blah, blah. He corrected a reporter when they were like, you said if you play next year, it'll be for the Jets. He's like, no, I said it would be my number one choice. And then he said, if they want to get rid of me, great, fantastic. And if they don't want to get rid of me and they want to keep me, I'll consider it. Like it wasn't like a very like big endorsement. It's just been hilarious. I mean, this is what Aaron does, but going from January where he's like, I could play 3 or 4 more years to what it was a couple weeks ago where he's asked if he wants to come back. I think so. Then now we're at this stage where he's like, yeah, maybe I'll consider coming back if they want me. So I don't know. It's just another. I feel like this was kind of inevitable once the season kind of fell apart that Aaron would eventually stop biting his tongue. And I'm just very curious to see how Woody handles it over these last 5 weeks, because we know he likes to get involved. So you're on mute, Tim.
Will, any takeaways from you?
Yeah, just a couple quick things. I thought, one, I just look at it as Aaron's kind of in defense mode, right? I think it's been weeks of he's getting criticized now. And like, it's been and not that it shouldn't have been, it's been kind of a nice, fun press tour for Aaron for 18 months. It was like, the injury sucked, obviously, but like for 18 straight months, he was the savior. He had all this control in the organization, and it's kind of slowly slipping away. It's like a guy, feeling like a marriage slipping away a little bit. And he's kind of just all these deep rooted things he's been bothered by a little bit. He's letting out. He's not biting his tongue anymore, as Zach said. And I think this is him like, oh, I don't have to show my resume. It's like he's getting blamed for kind of what's going on the field now. It's not just, hey, we don't like your opinions, or certain sections of the fan base like it. Some don't, he gets into it with Florio and stuff, and that's cool. And that's fans had his back, and now they don't have his back as much. And I feel like he's kind of just, it's like he's kind of backed up in a corner a little bit. He feels like, at least, and he's kind of lashing out. As Zach said, I'm curious how long this goes. I think for him, playing 17 games and getting 500 touchdowns at this point are the two biggest things, it feels like, for him to kind of accomplish this year. And I think he knows that, like, he's got to defend himself to try to play these next 5 again. I don't really know what benching Rodgers actually does, other than maybe it makes some of the guys a little happier, which that does matter long term, and that's going to be a big thing. And we'll talk stay or go thing. Like, there's some guys that they definitely want to stay, that if they want here, they're going to probably have to make a little happier. But overall, I'm not like Rodgers is going to say what he's going to say. He's very good at his words, kind of, hey, I just remodeled my house. So it's like, hey, it's the Jets' fault. I'm very much of the opinion, and I argued for a long time. Me and Zach talked about this a lot, that up until 2 or 3 weeks ago, I still thought the best option was Aaron to come back, be the bridge to a rookie quarterback, a super developmental quarterback that literally needed to sit an entire year, be your quarterback 3, basically not even really be active on game days. It would be like Aaron and Tyrod again, new coach, and then in 2026, have some more cap space with some of the other veterans, dead money moving off. And now I'm like, he's going to make it feels like he's going to make the Jets cut him, and he's going to make it so it is the Jets' fault. And he's going to phrase it as like, they didn't want me because their coach and GM got fired. It's setting up. The words have changed a lot in the last couple of weeks. And it's like, I just remodeled my house. Hey man, like, this isn't my fault. You guys don't want me. I'm healthy now. I wasn't healthy. And to an extent, he's right. But it feels like it's probably just not going to end as well as I was kind of hoping it'd be like a nice, like, hey, this isn't going to work for either of us. And it feels like it's not going to end that way. And that's kind of a shame, honestly.
Yeah, healthy, but not playing any better as healthy last week. It is fascinating. We'll see how it goes down. All right, let's move on to stay or go. So simple game here. I'm going to throw out the player, and we're going to go through a lot of these players, so this will move pretty quickly. Zach is going to weigh in and tell us what he thinks the Jets will do, and then, Will, it's your job to counter and tell us what the Jets should do. So you are the voice of reason. Zach is the voice of whatever this franchise is right now. All right, so let's jump in. And we start with, obviously, QB1, Aaron Rodgers. Zach, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weirdly easy one, it feels like, at this point. It's a go. I mean, I can't say 100% because I think it does kind of depend on who they hire. Like, if there's a coach that wants to play Aaron Rodgers next year, I can see it happening because he's ultimately better than whoever's going to be their starting quarterback in week 1 next year, ultimately. I mean, the options out there in free agency, Sam Darnold's not coming back here. Geno Smith's not coming back here. Daniel Jones, I don't think he's really better than Aaron Rodgers, probably. I mean, he can move, I guess, would be the idea. Like, I don't know who the veterans are. Jameis Winston, like, I guess he'll throw it down the field at least.
Jameis Winston love.
I know, there has been a lot of that. A lot of Jets fans, it seems like, want him.
Yep.
But ultimately, none of these guys are like,
would be entertaining.
He would be. He would. He's like a modern day Fitzpatrick for this team. Honestly, just the way he plays, and entertaining for interview purposes. So I'd take that. But ultimately, I don't like it. Just in terms of pure quarterbacking, like, these rookies, none of these rookies seem to be ready to play right now. So I could see like a coach who says, let's run with Rodgers for a year if he's willing to come back. But yeah, anyway, long way of saying go.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, he's my answer. I guess, like, I'm not opposed to him coming back. It's nothing about that. And I don't think that, like, I'm not like, oh my God, get this guy out of the building. But I also think that, like, the realistic, it's probably 90-10, where I thought it was 50-50 maybe a month ago. I think it's probably more 90-10 now. He's not back. So I'll go. I don't know the answer, but I will tell you, if I'm the Jets, the one thing I am calling is on calling Minnesota, and I'm asking, are you going to really let Sam Darnold, who's going to throw for 4,500 yards and 30 touchdowns, out of your building? Like, what are you doing with JJ McCarthy? Because what if the Jets pick 9th or 10th and you just go, hey, what are you going to do? Is he going to sit for another 2 years? Like eventually, like we'll give you a first round pick. You basically just get the same return on your investment. I'm not saying it's a perfect fit, but I don't know if you hired Mike Vrabel, he was successful under Harbaugh. Is that an option? Is it, do you call the Colts, or you calling Dallas, you calling Jacksonville and saying like, what's it going to take? Because like you mentioned, the free agency class sucks outside of the one guy who's not coming back here, and the draft class sucks. So I don't know. I'm just saying that just as an outside 2% chance it happens. It's the one little, I don't know, just something worth a mention. Like it's the one name where, I don't know, he did sit for a year under O'Connell. Could that be the year of development he needed? Is Minnesota sold on Sam? Sam's only 27. I don't know. We'll see. That's the one interesting one I'm watching, is like the outside shot.
It is interesting because JJ has like all the things I mean, it's tough when you're that young, but he has all the things that this locker room needs, right? Like he's that winning mentality, like doesn't care about just everything he did at Michigan, right? Was just like, we're just going to win. He does have some weird like things,
meditating.
like the meditation.
The quarterback meditates.
There's a little like Aaron Rodgers in there somewhere, I think. But yeah, that's fascinating. If that was something I think that would at least energize fans to know that like, hey, we're not just going into 2025 with like, you know, whatever it is, like just something to get us through.
Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah. Speaking of Tyrod Taylor, Zach.
Yeah, he'll be back. Yeah, that's easy one. His contract's pretty much guaranteed. I mean, I guess technically they can move on from him if they traded him away for like, if they decided they wanted Jameis over him or something, you could trade him away. And I think they get some cap savings, but they don't get any from cutting him. And I think he'll be fine as a bridge quarterback. So I think he's back.
Yeah, we have other ones that are more interesting. I like that.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
one's like, unless there's some, exactly. Unless there's some scenario where they did acquire some like big name guy that's I don't know. They traded a zillion picks for Dak in Dallas, hundreds of millions of dollars in some crazy scenario. Yeah, sure. If you find money, but other than that, why would you? He'll be gone after 2025. It's pretty simple.
I mean, Jordan Travis is obviously going to be back. He's never been healthy for this team. Is there anything you guys want to mention about Travis, though, as far as like,
I mean, he'll have
potential there, right?
Yeah, he'll have to prove to the next staff that he's worth keeping around ultimately, but we don't even know if or when he's going to be ready to play. So, yeah, he's a stay just because you want to see what you have there. But
it is crazy that I did not expect the injury to be this.
Yeah,
I guess I should have. I guess when you think about it, it's only
it was pretty serious,
just over a year, right? Because it was right at the end of the season with Florida State, and a devastating injury. So he is interesting because he was a really good college quarterback before I said a devastating injury. All right, moving on to running back Breece Hall, Zach.
Yeah, stay. The more interesting, that'll be a more interesting conversation next year when they have to deal with his contract. But
a lot. This whole segment will be more interesting.
Yeah, I know.
Year, right?
Yeah, totally. I do think Breece has been a little less successful this season than I expected. He is really banged up now. I don't think he's going to play this week. He didn't practice today. Didn't practice yesterday. I don't think you should throw him out there. The season's over. Let Braylon Allen get some reps. Let Isaiah get some reps. But yeah, he's coming back.
Yeah, just quickly on Travis, I would operate if I'm a fan that Jordan Travis will never play for the Jets, and that anything you get out of him is positive. I just seen some like he's the savior. Like let's see, he's got to practice first. You know what I mean? Like I'm not trying to be like a dick. I'm just being honest. Like
the Jets fans love the unknown, so the idea that like he could be something is what has them going. That's why they loved like Izzy Abanikanda and all these rookies over the years that like didn't get playing time. And then they go out there like, oh, they don't really have anything.
There's a reason they're inactive on game days.
Yeah.
In terms of Breece, it's obviously a stay. I would look this offseason to try to do what the Giants should have done with Saquon. And I'd try to say, we're going to give you your franchise tag money for those 2 years, and we're basically going to have you for the next 3 years after this one. You don't have to worry about if you get hurt that you won't get paid the next year, and we'll reevaluate after your age 25 season or 26 season, where like the Jets are going to pay the same amount of money anyways. It's just basically like, we're going to keep you here. I agree with you, Zach. From what I understand of what is going on with that injury, like I don't know why he played last week. I'm not sure he should play this week. He's a warrior, and I love that he wanted to play, and he looked good other than the fumbles. But like this feels like give him a week and like let's reevaluate. I just don't. Even as much as I think Jets fans want to beat the Dolphins, is it worth it? Probably not.
Yeah, it's almost what you mentioned. that contract. It's like buying out arbitration in baseball, right?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
You're gonna pay the guy anyway. You're probably gonna pay
That's
him
what a
at
good
different
organization would do,
pace.
though, right? Like you look at the
Yep.
Braves, and it's like the Braves do this all the time. It's like,
Wonder what a
oh my
good
God, in
organization
7
looks
years.
like. I'm not familiar.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, it's like he's going to get paid that money anyways, probably by you, unless you trade him. So you might as well just. Plus, it would make Brees happy. Maybe he goes in with this attitude of like, see, they love me, they took care of me, and you don't have the drama of another hold in or hold out. It's just not. I don't know. It's just like such a. It feels too simple that it won't get done, but it's something I would potentially look at doing if I was a new GM.
All right. Any other of Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, or either of these guys worth? Obviously, Braylon Allen's going to be back.
Yeah, they'll be back. Yeah,
they'll both be back. Can we move on to wide receivers?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Oh yeah.
All right, Garrett Wilson is just like Brees Hall, right? Like this is a more interesting conversation in a year, Zach. But it hasn't been what we thought it was going to be for Garrett.
I mean, but not for his fault though. Like,
well, right? He's been open.
Yeah. He's had a great year. He's a stay, but I do like there is a part of me that wonders like how much he has his eye on who the next coach is, who the next quarterback is, because he's a very obvious like demand a trade candidate. He's gonna be eligible for a contract. He's in a bad situation right now with the Jets. The future looks a little bleak right now because he has no idea what the future looks like. Like I don't know. I could see him wanting to play with, a team that has a bit more stable quarterback situation or a team that is trying to win right now. So I wouldn't rule out him asking for a trade. I'm not saying I think he's going to, but I would not rule that out.
Yeah, he's obviously stay. Again, another one that like if I'm the GM coming in, the Jets hire John Spytek. I don't know, whatever. Like I doubt Spytek takes an interview, but it doesn't matter. The point being, like the first thing I think I'm doing is saying, Garrett, I understand what's going on here. What's the number it's going to take to keep you here long term? Like that's because he's the one guy on offense that positionally, media wise, jersey sales wise, even more than a running back, as much as the NFL's changed back to like running backs mattering. Losing Garrett would be it. The Jets have had a lot of great running backs. They've had a lot of great defensive ends and corners and all these things. Receivers been that spot where like they've not had the longevity. Even Keyshawn and Brandon Marshall and all these guys no disrespect to Wayne Corbett. I was gonna say no disrespect to Wayne Corbett, but like we talk about Wayne Corbett like he was Garrett Wilson and very different players. So whether Garrett would take an extension this offseason, I'm not entirely sure, but I certainly would be like, can we have some preliminary conversations around what a number? Is it 30? Is it 34? Like in some ways, Rodgers has kind of kept Garrett a little cheaper because he hasn't had the 1,800-yard Jamar Chase season. I don't know. I just would be – those are the two guys I would just like, what can we do to like pay you off to not be upset with what's gone on here the last couple of years?
I mean, it has to start with a 3, right? There's no way it's less than a 3.
Like I don't know. I'd like, hey, what is 4 for 120? Yeah. Like, is that, can we start there and like have a real conversation? And you obviously pick up their options, but like his option, but that doesn't, obviously he's not going to play on a $15 million option realistically.
All right. Devontae Adams is a little more interesting.
It is. I mean, my ultimate prediction is go, but I feel like I probably am in line with Will about what they should do.
I would keep Devontae Adams and not think twice. A simple restructure. He plays at a little over $13 million a year next year. For the sake of just the conversation with the guy who's going to come up here in a minute, Alan Lazard's playing on $13 million a year this year, and Corey Davis did 2 years ago, and Devontae Adams is like 800 times better. I don't think this is actually up to the Jets at all. I think this is totally up to Devontae and whether Devontae has done it twice now where if he doesn't want to be somewhere, he will say the right things, but he knows he's very good like Aaron in a way he knows how to like, he's good with his words. And he likes the sound of his words as well. So the Jets should keep him. I think whether it's Tyrod Taylor, a rookie, one of the veterans, having Garrett and Devontae for like a full season would be really cool. They save a bunch of money by cutting them, but they also save a bunch of money by restructuring them. And the Jets, just using Mike Vrabel. If Mike Vrabel comes in here, is Mike Vrabel really going to be like, hey, get rid of a lot of these guys? So like, I have to like coach the best I've ever coached to go 8-9. Like, I don't know that that's what the thinking is. And where they get a Liam Cohen and Liam Cohen's like, hey, I just had Godwin and Mike Evans. Like, I'd rather have Garrett and Devontae for a year and see what I can do with an average level quarterback. I'd say stay, but I ultimately think Devontae may say, I want to go try to win one more, go do one more run at this, or go play with Aaron in Tennessee or Vegas.
Back to Vegas. All right,
Oh, yeah, I
Alan
didn't even think
Lazard.
about that when I said that. I was like, oh man, maybe he hasn't sold his house. Maybe he has a house still there. We don't. Who knows? Taco Bell, man.
Lazard to go, Zach.
Yeah, that's I mean, Salah had a funny slip up last year where he's like, "Yeah, we have him for this year and next year," and then he's gone basically. But he signed a 4-year deal, so I think they all know he's gone. We know that Alan Lazard is nothing without Aaron Rodgers. He's said as much himself, so he's gone. I think that's an easy one.
Yeah, he's gone. It's just funny. He actually was playing like semi-decent football, and then it was like, of course, gets hurt. But yeah,
Well, he might be back this week though. Everybody's celebrating like they won the Super
yeah.
Bowl, you know.
Yeah, he touchdown merchant, big slip screen guy,
And drop
No,
merchant.
and drop merchant. Torres like pulls his pec on a bobbled catch. But regardless, yeah, it's very much a go for me.
Yeah.
Malachi Corley.
Yeah, that'll be a stay. I mean, hopefully whatever coach comes in next can figure out how to use him. I don't know. Maybe he's not as good as the Jets thought he was because he has been playing more. You don't notice him out there. So I don't know. He might just be a gadget player, but if you can get he's a good blocker for a receiver, but you know, how much value is there actually in that? So yeah, you hope you get an offensive coordinator that can figure out how to use him. Yeah, he'll be a stay.
Yeah, he's a stay. I'd like to see the next Jets coach like get with him and be like, what are your 10 plays you're really good at, and like spam those, because it feels like the Jets have like 2 plays they think he's good at, but like throwing him go balls is not what he's good at. Like it doesn't take someone that's a college scout to see that. So he's a stay. I just would like to feels like the Jets, no matter what, are going to need to add a receiver this offseason. Either a guy to replace, to like let Garrett play inside more, or I just don't know that Corley's ever going to be this traditional 3-down receiver. Is he a back? Is he a receiver? Is he a slot guy? Like, what is he? That was an Aaron pick. And I just, now that Aaron's not going to likely be here, it's just kind of funny that that's what ends up happening.
All right, Xavier Gipson, like obviously the former coaching staff loved him. The fans have turned on him. The coach, he's going to have to win over the new coaches quickly. I see. It's just interesting to me because he's obviously not a huge piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
But he's a kick returner. So where do you think they end up going, Zach?
I'm going to lean go, because I think he's lost his job as the returner now that they have Kene Ngwanu, I think, who looks like an absolute stud, and he's had a history of success. And so if you remove that, Xavier is not a factor in the passing game. So, I mean, he'll be on the team this offseason, fight for a roster spot. Could see him fighting his way onto the team, but my early prediction is he's not on the 53 at the start of next year.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I think he's a classic last day surprise cut. You know, that he's a guy that gets like you and, you know, everybody we all tweeted a guy who's played for the Jets for the last couple of years, but he doesn't, all the gadget plays have gone to Corley. Some of the blocking Gibson was doing has gone to Corley, and a guy who's an all-pro kick returner and is 25 years old that the Jets just like had on their practice squad when their return game was putrid, had an awesome week last week. So to me, like, kind of feels like a no-brainer, and it's no disrespect to him. It's just that what he's good at, they have guys that are better at, and this is what happens. Like he'll fight for a roster spot, but not sure a new coaching staff's like, I can't wait to get this 5'9", 165-pound guy who's like on my roster. Like that's just the reality of it.
All right, tight ends, Tyler Conklin, Zach.
I think he probably wants to go somewhere where he's actually going to get the ball. And I think he's a good player. He just has been ignored. Like, I don't even remember, was it the Titans game where he had a really good game? And I thought we were on the verge of his breakout. Yes. Patriots. Yeah. It was because it was national TV. Yeah, 90 yards, his career high. It's been a disappointing season, but I don't think it has anything to do with him. I just think he was wide open a few times last week. So anyway, I see him leaving. It's unfortunate. He's a great locker room guy, great dude, but I think he'll land on his feet somewhere and be a starting tight end.
I think it should be a stay. I think it's probably a go, but I think that, to me at least, he's a guy that if you can draft or sign some type of like a blocking tight end that can let him just be a guy that's like Conklin's really good at blocking on the edges when you get out in space. If you notice, the Jets have done a lot of that toss crack stuff where Conklin's like, we saw it week 1, we saw it week 2, where like he's good at like blocking DBs and backers when like he's out in space. He's not a good one-on-one inline blocker. And that's where Jeremy Ruckert's supposed to play, which I know we'll talk about in a second, but he is supposed to be this inline, like that fullback tight end combo, and he's the lowest graded run blocker in terms of tight ends and one-on-one areas like in the league. So this year. So yeah, I'd keep Conklin on like can you get him for 2 for 15 and say like, hey, him and a guy who's like this, either a burner at tight end or a blocking guy where Conklin's like your 1B in a sense, like as a one, we saw it in Minnesota. It could work really well and you can win a lot of games. And he's going to be the 5th most Jets receptions of all time. Tight end receptions of all time at the end of the year, which is insane. And last thing on Conklin I'll say is like they're going to be paying him $6 million because they restructured him so many times next year. I just would rather use that money to have a guy on the roster when they are going to have so much other dead cap hit. Like he's not going to cost a ton. But I honestly, he's going to be 30. I don't know what new GMs do like to have these like high floor guys when they come in for a short period. You do wonder if he's one of those high floor guys. They can just be like, we're going to throw you out there for 2 years. And like, we don't really want to pay a tight end at all anyways. So like, here's 2 for 15 and like, will you stay? It's up to him at the end of the day though.
All right. I feel like you just covered Ruckert too, but Zach, what do you think about Ruckert?
I mean, I'll say stay, but he's gonna have to fight his way on the roster because, as Will alluded to, he's been bad. And this was supposed to be the year he.
Such a shame.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea with him was like anyone who would listen, Jets coaches would say, like this was like a 3-year project, and by the 3rd year, we think he's going to be the player that we thought. He was a 3rd-round pick, and you can count it as a loss now on the resume because he's not contributed at all, and he's kind of. I feel like he's gotten worse as a blocker. So, yeah, that's a. I mean, like again, like a guy who I could see fighting for a roster spot, essentially.
Yeah,
due to a lack of tight ends. Yeah,
fringe roster guy. Which sucks. It's just the reality.
Yeah.
Offensive line. Can we skip Tyron Smith?
Yeah, that's an easy one. So yeah.
Obviously, he's
that's unfortunately maybe probably a retirement. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe the most interesting guy here is Morgan Moses. When you think about, and we've talked about it on the show a lot, Zach, that they finally have like a solid acceptable offensive line. Obviously, Moses is a big part of that. What do you think?
Yeah, it's that's one that'll kind of come down to the GM and coach, but I lean towards stay. I just think he's such a great veteran. He's fighting through some injuries. He might be on the decline, especially with all these injuries and stuff, but he can be a stopgap solid right tackle for a year. You draft somebody or whatever it is, sign somebody young as a swing tackle backup, or Carter Warren clearly doesn't have it, but yeah, I lean stay for him. I'm not confident in that, but I lean stay.
Yeah, I would love to see him back. I think I've been more vocal about him and Conklin than probably anybody, just because I think that, again, the high floor guy that like, I don't want to curse on your show, but he's one of the dudes that like gives a shit like all the time, and is actually like has the mentality of somebody that like the Jets need more of, frankly, around their locker room, of like, I won't get pushed around. Like, my only concern with Morgan is like, I don't know that he can start 17 games anymore. Not that he can't, he'll push through it, but like, I'm not speculating. This is no inside information. Usually I'll classify it if it. I don't know that he didn't tear his pec again last week. Like, the way he came off the sideline was like he was just grabbing his chest, like the exact same way.
Well, that's what Ulbrich said. His shoulder injury would be serious if it was anybody else, but since it's him,
right? So like this is just one of those like, stay as long as you know that you're going to need like a 6th offensive lineman, a similar way they had this year with Olu. I'm not saying if to take a tackle at like 5, I wouldn't do it in this draft regardless, but if you could have a swing tackle type to play right tackle behind Morgan, I think you'd feel really good about next year having a cohesive unit that you just had this year with a quarterback who is not a statue. You'd probably feel pretty good about your offensive line going into 2025.
Yeah, so the rest of the line, we'll skip Olu. Obviously, 1st-round pick. He's not going anywhere. He's going to become, hopefully, the staple over there at left tackle. John Simpson is a Joe Douglas win, Zach.
Yeah, that's a stay. One of the best signings of the Joe Douglas era. That's an easy one.
Yeah, definitely stay. I mean, he's really good value, frankly, for what he's on next year.
Elijah Vera Tucker, I feel like rookie year before the injury, there was like this, he's a star, and I don't know if he's that, but he's been solid when on the field.
He's another one that'll be interesting next year when you have to pay him.
Yeah.
But he's a stay. Yeah, you bring him back. Like I said, like we've talked about in here a lot. They have 4 out of 5 offensive linemen locked in for next year, and then the right tackle is the question mark. And when was the last time you could say that about a Jets offensive line?
I honestly couldn't tell you. Probably like late 2000 when Mangini
maybe the
was helping,
or maybe the Nick Mangold and DeBrickashaw years.
Yeah. No, he's a stay. I hope that next year with AVT having a full off season without having a rehab and injury, knock on wood, that he can avoid injury. Because
maybe they should shut him down.
He is banged up right now. I don't think he's going to play
because
this week,
it feels like 3 straight years or 2 straight years of like the entire off season's rehabbing to get back to zero. And like, it'd be nice to see him start at 0. And, he's just a guy that like, feel like he's just been bit. He was not a guy that got hurt in college. He was just like Sam. I can't. It's so frustrating. These guys, like, they're injury proof, and then they get here, and it's like, nope, they're just literally always injured. I like AVT a lot. He's a good locker room guy. He's a good player. I don't know that I hope he looks a little bit more consistently like the guy from the first 2 years than he does this year. I feel like it's been a little up and down, but it's off the Achilles. It's to be expected, I guess.
It's been up and down for Tippmann too, but he's a stay, obviously. I think we can move to defense. Hassan Reddick. Let's start there, Zach.
Yeah, out. Go. Get out of here. I don't really have much to say about him.
I'm going to go stay. No, I'm just kidding. Has anyone
noticed
their value this much?
Oh, my God, yeah. I mean, Deontay Johnson maybe would be the other one.
But Reddick doesn't even look good. Like, he doesn't even, like,
I know. That's what I was going to say. I think I turned to Samini during the game the other day. I'm like, when was the last time you noticed Hassan Reddick? Like, he's
Houston
invisible.
game, maybe even then. Like, I don't even
and
know.
Whereas Will McDonald, who I mean, he's going to be an obvious stay too when he comes up. Like, he had one of his best games this last game. He's getting better.
He's banged up and looks way more athletic than Reddick, who's not banged up. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, Reddick's gone, and I'm his contract's going to be like 1 year, $3 million with like a lot of incentives or something.
He's going to get the classic. Like, he got 1 for 20, and it's like 17
like a fake 20.
Bonus. Yeah, fake 20. The Von Miller for 160.
Yeah.
Will McDonald was next. Obviously, stay there. Yeah. I'm trying to scan down here and pick out some interesting ones. Jermaine Johnson coming off the injury.
Yeah, stay. Obviously. Hopefully he comes back the same player because they miss him. He was a big loss. I think in retrospect, the biggest loss maybe they had this season. But yeah, he's easy stay, and he's a culture guy. Like, he's a good guy for the next coaching staff to inherit. But yeah, as Will said, he's one you wait and see for money wise. Like, you're not going to sign.
Would you pick up his 5th-year option?
I guess they have to. Do they have to decide that this summer?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they do. That's a good question.
It's like 15+ million.
That's a little high. I guess it depends on how he looks when he comes off the injury. And I don't know.
They know better than anybody, right? With your internal medicals, if he's.
I don't know. It's honestly a tough one because Achilles injury is tough. I feel good about Jermaine coming back strong from it, but you just don't know. So I don't know. That's a tough one.
All right, here's a fun one for the fans. Michael Clemens.
I mean, I'm going to predict stay just because as of right now, they don't have anybody on that defensive line. But I mean, I know what Will's answer is going to be. But he's. I mean, the reason he plays a lot is because they don't have anybody else to play. Like Eric Watts, Brady McGregor, Tack McKinley. These guys are not good either. So that's why he plays. But he's also been a massive liability. So.
Yeah, if he's your 9th defensive lineman, sure. But if he's your starter playing 50 reps a game in a division that has really good quarterbacks, like, it's not going to work. So it's no disrespect to him. It's just, I think we talk about Michael Clemens sometimes if he was just like upstart story that, like, how could he have made the roster? He was a 4th-round pick.
I know, yeah.
When he was a guy that wasn't on most people's top 200. So, like, that's where it's frustrating. I think it started for me when it was like, you drafted a 25-year-old dude with 3 arrests. Like, that's weird. Like, why'd you do that in the 4th round? And then he's been mostly bad. Like, even when he does something good, it's always followed with a bad play. So if I was the GM or coach, I would say go. But I also have a feeling that, like, another guy that's probably going to fight throughout camp, and it's going to be at the end of camp, it's going to be like him and Xavier Gibson and Ruckert and these guys that, like, they're not
former regimes draft picks.
Yeah. That's what always happens. It's like those guys end up either. Quincy Williams, it happened to him in Jacksonville. Former regime comes in, they're like, we have no use for you. They cut him on, and the Jets make the rewards. But not sure Clemens is going to have the same career track as Quincy Williams.
All right, across the defensive line, Quinnen obviously is a stay. Javon Kinlaw has been a huge disappointment.
Go.
Is he a clear go?
Go. Yeah. He stinks.
He might be more of a go than Michael Clemens. He stinks.
How about Solomon Thomas?
I mean, whatever. Like if he's your fourth defensive tackle, sure. He's a good leader to have, but I'll say go, but I could see him coming back.
He will be following Robert Saleh when he's the Bengals DC.
That's probably
the
fair.
Bengals DC or the Packers DC. Like a lot of these guys, you'll see they potentially will even go
pop up.
Yeah, pop up elsewhere.
Leonard Taylor, Zach.
He's a Jets fan favorite. I think they overhype him a little bit, but he's fine. He's a developmental guy. You keep bringing him back, keep developing him. I would try and bring. I mean, we're not doing coaches, but I'd try and bring back White Cotton. He might follow Saleh too, but good developer of talent on the D line. But yeah, Taylor's back for sure.
Yeah, I think the undrafted guys will be back at least throughout camp, and then Taylor probably has the highest ceiling, so he probably has the best chance to make the roster in 25. If not, maybe Joe Douglas goes somewhere else and brings those guys as like when he's like inevitably the director of player personnel in Philly or Baltimore in the next like 2 weeks.
All right, we'll skip Quincy. We know that. CJ Mosley.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think, if he keeps being out from this injury, I don't know. I lean towards him even maybe retiring, but he is under contract for it's almost all guaranteed or something like that. They restructured it last year, which kind of backfired a little. I wouldn't hate having him back as just like a guy in the locker room. Maybe not someone. He's more of a coach than a player. I wouldn't hate bringing him back. Like if he says he wants to play, you don't really save that much money getting rid of him. So I don't know, but I lean go as we sit here right now. I would say.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. I hope it's a stay. But I have a funny feeling, and we're not going to see CJ Mosley play football again. The neck when it starts to be neck and back stuff. Him and Tyron Smith.
I mean, he's only played 4 games this year, which it feels like more because he talks to us like every week. But
yeah, he's awesome. He's been a great Jet, and I love Mosley. I have a feeling this might be unfortunately it. When you're 32 with a neck and back at that position, it might be time. Quincy Williams, I would want to point out, sneaky. Come back to this in like 4 months. If Quincy doesn't have a new deal, I'm telling you, there's going to be an OTAs hold in something because he's a pretty cheap deal, and he's going to be going into age 29 season, and it's just not the first time I think he would have liked a new deal last offseason. I think he knew he wasn't going to get it, but just be on the lookout for Quincy as needs to low key get extended guy. I don't know why the Jets would extend him because he's 1 year left and he's going to be 29 or 30, but I don't know. It's just my little sneaky prediction on December 5th.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Jamie Sherwood is a free agent. He's been pretty good.
I would bring him back. I mean, I know I'm supposed to say what I think will happen. So I guess I'll say stay. He's a young linebacker. He's like in the top 5 in tackles, which doesn't necessarily mean a lot, but he's a guy, he's one of those guys that they were patient with and he became a pretty solid player. So it depends on what the next GM thinks of him, but I say stay.
Yeah, I think he's a stay, but I think there's a number on stay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I wouldn't overpay him. Yeah.
Is it like 3 for 15? And it's like, oh, cool. Like that's awesome. $5 million a year. He's a good player. Or is it like, he's like, hey, I was 4th in the league in tackles. Like I want the money Blake Cashman just got, which was like 3 for 27. Like, I don't know if I'm paying Jamie Sherwood $9 million a year. I think he's like, there's a number. You should bring him back, but there's a number. As Joe Douglas likes to say, there's always a number. Like that's He's the classic case of that.
All right, let's move on to the secondary. Sauce obviously is like a next year thing. That'll be interesting. I think we can skip that. But DJ Reed, I mean, obviously he's going to be. The expense is going to skyrocket.
Yeah, I think he's going to make more. I am curious what his next contract looks like because he doesn't have any interceptions, which is notable for a corner. But I'm very high on DJ. Great locker room guy, great player, and he's gonna make some money. He's gonna join a pretty good team probably that needs a corner. I could see a team overpaying him even, but he deserves it. So I say go. I think he wants to test his market. He wants to get paid. Like he's pretty open about that, which I respect. And so I say go for DJ.
Yeah, I mean, I wish it was a stay. I think the Jets the new GM maybe has a conversation around the tag, depending on like how competitive they.
Now remember, Will, you're supposed to tell us what the Jets should do. So.
They should probably.
Which is trickier with DJ, right?
No, I've been me and Zach have talked about this. I think even back last summer. I think it's a go because paying a smaller corner a third contract is just not. Even Revis a third contract, it worked for like a year and a half, and then it totally fluttered out. So I'll go. It's a shame, but there's a world in which the Jets could replace DJ quite quickly, whether it's in the draft, whether it's elsewhere. I think you're going to pay Sauce. You're already paying Michael Carter. You really can't pay all three corners. So it's probably, unfortunately, a go.
You mentioned Carter. Obviously, they're already paying him. Interception, Zach. Brendan Eccles. There's your guy.
Yeah, I think he's gone. He probably tries to be a starter somewhere. I don't know if he'll get that. But like Bryce Hall, like that kind of thing. He'll probably get a contract like that, like 1 year, $4 million, something like that. But he's a go.
Yeah.
How about for I'm sorry. Well, I cut you off.
No, I was just going to say, again, another guy that should be probably a stay. But again, I know I joked about like Solomon Thomas. Like, you wonder if Saleh does get a DC job, does he say like, hey, if it's not a great team like that needs a corner, is he like, hey, we can get Brandon Eccles, he knows my system, etc. But if the Jets let Reed walk and they couldn't replace him, is it a conversation of like, hey, you're going to be our day one starter? Maybe, but I don't know. I again, another one where it's like, hey, if you want more than $5 million, I'm sorry, you're walking. Like, that's just these guys have numbers, and then if you're the Jets, you can't really be overpaying Brandon Eccles. It's like, you want to be here, you don't, and we love you, but it is what it is.
All right, we're gonna do this for safety. Who's the most likely to come back, Zach? Why don't we do that? Because when you look at this grouping, there's going to be a lot of goes.
Yeah, in terms of what I think will happen, I guess is because that's my job. Don't think Chuck Clark comes back. I don't think Ashton Davis, unless he's like the fourth safety, I guess. Isaiah Oliver, maybe, but he seems like someone who would just like follow Saleh somewhere, or Ulbrich. Who else is even Tony Adams? I mean, he got benched by Woody Johnson, so I don't know if he's coming back. So I don't know. It might be a completely new safety room, frankly.
In your article, you actually just have Isaiah Oliver as stay.
Yeah, I mean, I like that he's versatile and can play multiple spots, so like he's a good backup. But in terms of what I think like will happen, like it's probably most likely that they lose all. Like somebody's pointed out, Tony Adams is a restricted free agent. That's fair, but the Jets would have to tender him to keep him restricted. So. Maybe Tony Adams. I mean, Tony Adams is probably the most likely to come back. He's young. I would keep him. But the fact that Woody benched him is on my mind ultimately. So
yeah, I agree with you. Ashton's the other one that like he's a really good special teams guy, and he has a good find for safety, and he has a nose for the football. And like maybe he's a guy you're just like, he cost me $2 million. Like he can be a good special teams player. Like that to me is like feels, I guess, most likely just because he's probably the cheapest, and he's like has some upside. He does play special teams, which is some upside for a new coach. But like honestly, take it or leave it with like all four of these guys. No disrespect.
All right, right now when you look at kicker, you have Zerline, who signed the contract, and you have Anders Carlson. Zach, are either of them back next year?
I mean, probably not, but I could see Carlson. I mean, he's made a couple long field goals for them. Why not? Let him compete with somebody. But yeah, Zerline is out of here. I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah, Greg's off the better pastures. I think you probably, if you're a new GM or if you're the Jets, you probably want to bring Carlson back and get a full look at him during camp and be like, hey, you were a draft pick 2 years ago. Green Bay, it didn't go well, but you've looked better in 2 games here. If he kicks well the rest of the year, like maybe he's the day one kicker. I don't know, but I think like kickers are so hard to find. If you have an okay one in your building, you kind of don't really want to let one that's young walk. But honestly, kickers suck 1 year and are amazing the next. I have really no idea.
Greg Zerline.
Yeah.
And finally, Thomas Morstead.
I'll say
2023 team MVP.
Yeah, I'll say stay. I mean, he seems to like it here, but I don't know. I mean, he's also very close with Aaron Rodgers, so maybe he'll go wherever Aaron does.
Yeah, we'll get a cohort to Tennessee. I'll go stay, but he's been a little worse this year. But yeah, again, like if you don't have to solve a problem at punter, like it might as well just not. You know what I mean? Like don't create more problems than you need.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's not one that's like that. And long snapper, like if they're fine, like you just keep them. Like that's what you just do.
I mean, Hennessy's been here forever, so
longest tenured Jet.
Yeah,
he'll outlast Woody.
I mean, Jets fans.
All right, that's it. I think we went through like 40 players on this roster.
Not bad.
With stay or go. Good stuff. Will, thanks for. Real quick.
There is a Jets Dolphins game on Sunday. We didn't talk about it for like even.
We're not gonna preview that. I did want to check in on the standings, though, on the picks pool real quick. We have a new leader. Joe2356 has a 1 point lead over historic STE. And then it's 2 points back. And then there's a grouping of Mr. Slippery, Boy Green, and Jimbo Brennan. So things are tight. I think top 2 are going to get those nice watches as the awards. I continue to be amazed that we have a legitimate thing to give to the winners. Usually it's like, here's an athletic hat. But anyway, so get in. There's plenty of people. Don't forget to get your picks in if you're in that top 5 or 6, because that's going to do it. That'll be it. You're out. Will Parkinson, thanks so much. What's coming up next from your 2 podcasts a day schedule?
Yeah, it's horrible. I just recorded all 32, so all 32 podcasts on CLNS covering the whole league is up now. I'll be doing a TOJ pod tomorrow, unfortunately previewing some Jets Dolphins, and then Saturday on Badlands feed, we're going to be doing a rewatchables of the Monday Night Miracle to try to give fans something. So that'll be up on the feed. So yeah, there's basically, if you want to hear my voice, there's 4 places to hear it in the next 24 hours. I feel bad for you if you do so, but it is what it is. I appreciate everybody always listening.
You have a better voice than either of us right now. So great stuff. We will be back on, I think, Monday. Zach, we'll talk about the game. We'll do our four downs thing, and we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, at least 2 of the downs are positive. It's been a while.
Going back to that, I mean, things generally aren't positive in Miami for this team, so I'm skeptical.
Yeah. All right, so we'll see. But thanks to everybody for tuning in.
Haven't won there since Gino, baby. Have not won there since Gino and Rex.
All right. We'll talk to everybody on Monday. Thanks for tuning in live here on YouTube, or if you're checking out the audio on the Badlands feed, or for our Spotify or Apple podcast, wherever you find us. We appreciate it. Talk to everybody soon.